Hello, everybody. So, I am back again to talk about why legalizing three of the psychedelics for recreational use is a genius idea, okay? And I don't see anybody talking about this, so I guess you heard it here first. But, yeah, not a lot of people actually talk about this in mainstream media, which we need to get on top of that. I hope and I pray that people can actually get behind this and understand that it is genuinely a very, very good idea to have dispensaries. And before anyone gets like afraid or anything, I've been watching a lot of like podcasts and documentaries and like interviews of people who research medically what psychedelics use. So, yeah, it is available in a few states for medical use. And, like, that's good and everything, but the accessibility of that, meaning that you have to travel states and meaning that you have to pay this gigantic fee, they charge you probably way too much money for what it's worth. And honestly, some of their healing practices, I find it a little over the top and a little bit unnecessary because honestly, a lot of people out there have used psychedelics before, and all of the worry and all of the fear around it, I feel like is unnecessary. So, I feel like these medical practitioners, I feel like they're trying to scare the population into thinking that they constantly need to monitor you, which I've never had a problem with being monitored in my past experiences using psychedelics. I never needed to be monitored. But I feel like they're just trying to like scare people. I feel like they're trying to scare people into thinking that they need to give them such a large amount of money, but I feel like it's unnecessary. I feel like this is like a cash grab. I really, really, really feel this is some type of like scam. So here's how the dispensary works. And one of the podcasters actually mentioned something like this, which, I'm going to say it again for people who haven't seen the podcast, but I'm just here to say I completely agree with this idea of having some type of like license to go into the dispensary, meaning like it's like a driver's license type of thing, where you take like, well, there's like a safety handbook, you take a test, and then you take like a physical exam. I know there's like some type of rules with your physical health and psychedelics, meaning like no organ damage and no medications, like any mental health medications, you're not supposed to be taking those, or like organ transplants and things of that nature. Make sure that you don't have like high blood pressure or heart problems or anything like that, so you can actually pass the physical exam, pass the written test, and then you can get your license and take that into the dispensary. And I feel like everybody should be able to do that. I feel like that should be an option for people. And people, okay, well, the reason why people should have access to it is, for your mental health. And, during the licensing phase, your mental health kind of like doesn't matter, because when you do take psychedelics, that's the thing that actually fixes it. So, I mean, like, if you're mentally ill, if you're like depressed or you have anxiety or something like that, like, using psychedelics is going to be the thing that actually helps you. So I don't see why a mental health exam would be necessary. Um, so yeah, we also need this not only for your mental health, but it should be for, people's IQ. So there was like brain imaging on how psychedelics affect the brain, and what it does, it connects different regions in the brain more efficiently. And that is going to be incredibly useful to raise the IQ of the current population. When you raise the IQ of the population, you make people smarter, everything becomes safer, more efficient, cleaner. It will just improve society. It will be very, very good. You know, there's nothing wrong with having more educated people. There's nothing wrong with more people who can make more efficient pathways and connections in their brain. You know, we need more of that, because I know I see a lot of people on the internet arguing about like which is smarter, or this is stupid, or this is smart, and no, I'm right, and no, I'm right. And, you know, it's a whole mess, really, when a lot of the times a large majority of the population cannot agree on things that are actually very intelligent, but they dismiss it because they have never had access to the psychedelics, meaning that their brain is not able to make the connections in order to realize when something is actually smart or not. Okay? So yeah, unfortunately, like, a lot of people think that using psychedelics is only going to ruin your brain or melt you or turn you into a wook or something, you know, like a dirty festival goer, you know? Someone that's dirty, they go to festivals, they need to borrow everything. Everybody's seen the memes, right? You know, like the jokes and all that. But that's not really what it actually does. And there's like a lot of social stigma around that. So another thing that I didn't like about the researchers is that they're trying to alter the chemical structure of the true form of psychedelics. They have, like, all right, so you have the true form of psychedelic, right? And they're trying to alter it to make it not visual. They're still taking like the feeling, but they're taking away the visuals, which I don't agree with. I know they made a joke, like they're taking the fun out of fungi, where they're like modifying the chemical structure, which I don't agree with at all. I think people should be able to use that, because when you see the visuals from the psychedelics, what it does is that it's an introduction to using frequencies. It's an introduction to actually being able to see frequencies and being able to see energy, which is very important for people to actually learn how to do that, especially when it comes to psilocybin. When it comes to psilocybin, that's the thing that actually activates your higher chakras, so you can actually understand how frequencies work. Because if you're in a frequency, then certain things will happen to you. You attract things that match the frequency that you're in. So say you're in a really, really bad frequency of like fear, you get to attract those things that you fear. And so that's why it's so important for people to actually understand how frequencies work, so they can get themselves out of a bad frequency, put themselves in a good frequency, and not attract horrible things to happen to them. So yeah, as for like the training manual, like the safety handbook, I was thinking on writing my own version of the safety handbook for psychedelics, because, you know, I'm not really just, you know, a festival goer where I take psychedelics for fun and then I act like I know everything about it. I actually, you know, did a lot of deep research on this. And so I would have more information on the safety precautions and the preparations that you need to take and aftercare when you use psychedelics. So I will write my own version of the safety handbook for psychedelics, and I'll make it available on the internet for everybody, for safety purposes and scientific things like that. Because, you know, it's not just like the basic, okay, well, a lot of people who've taken psychedelics, they say set and setting, and they think that's it, but there's a little more to the story than, you know, than what people understand. there's a lot more than just set and setting that you need to be aware about in order to prepare yourself and take care of yourself when using psychedelics. Okay, there's way more to the story. There's way more. The things that I talk about are not basic. I don't talk about basic things. Okay, we need to get more in detail to really understand what this is. So yeah, I also think that using psychedelics should be available for teenagers with a parent's permission. And teenagers over 14, they should be able to use them, because I used psychedelics when I first started when I was 14. And here's why. Because, when the psychedelics make those connections in your brain, and then when you're developing from a teenager to an adult, when you have those extra pathways and extra connections in the brain, it actually gives you an advantage over the other students, because now you are learning in a more efficient way. And I personally, because of my psychedelic use, I was able to graduate high school 1 year early ahead of all the other kids in my grade. And I can prove it. I can go back into my records. It might take a minute, but I can prove it. But yeah, I did graduate early. And during that last year, while I was finishing everything, I did take a few college courses in that third year. So, for me, high school was 4 years. And in my third year, I was taking college courses as well as I was going ahead of the rest of the kids in my grade and college courses, because I really just wanted to see what I was capable of. And at the time, yes, it was really impressive, and everybody was like, wow, you must be a genius, you must be a prodigy. But in all reality, that was the psychedelics creating the pathways in my brain. And that's why it's so important that people should have access to it. Any other things? Oh, okay. So yes, in my safety handbook training manual thing, I will be writing about, certain dietary needs. And I just wanted to explain how this works, because I know a lot of people like to argue about this topic on the internet, and everybody has different opinions, but I'm here to tell you the cold, hard truth, the plain facts, the plain reality of things, okay? So in the handbook, I will show you how to become vegan. And the reason why is that when you take psychedelics and then you create all of these new pathways, and the dendritic spines on your neurons get longer and they start multiplying, what that means is that with larger neurons and more pathways, that means more electricity needs to run through the brain in order to accommodate all these new pathways. So you have more electricity running through the brain. And the reason why I'm vegan is because this is the diet that actually supports so much electricity running through the brain. So we have all the brain imaging from the psychedelics and the pathways, right? And then we also have people who use machines to detect the electrical current in food. So meat and cheese do not efficiently or at all run an electrical current through the food. So when you are not vegan and you're taking psychedelics, yeah, a lot of people could have a hard time. That's why you see a lot of horror stories about people having psychosis, or people going crazy after taking psychedelics. The reason why is because their diet is not equipped to handle the electricity running through the brain. All right, it just doesn't work like that. So yes, we do have real proof. We have the proof of the brain imaging. We have the proof of a machine that you can stick into food and it will tell you the electrical current. So when you're eating meat and cheese, the electrical current cannot properly flow through the body. It's not supporting the electrical current, okay? So that's the reality of things. That's how science works. And yes, we have plenty of machines, we have plenty of evidence, we have plenty of proof to show you everything. All right? So I hope that was enlightening. And I really still encourage that we have more people talking about making psychedelic dispensaries for 3 of the psychedelics. I want to see LSD, I want to see MDMA, and I want to see psilocybin mushrooms available in dispensaries for people to be taking. All right, with their little driver's license, psychedelic driver's license, okay? Their medical examination, their written test, the safety manual, okay? It's a good idea. It's a really good idea. Seeing more people with higher IQs, seeing smarter people is only going to be good. It's only going to be a good thing. It's only going to be a good thing. And I really, 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 really hope that people actually start understanding what this actually is. All right? But thank you for listening, and I hope we can get some things done.